Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Game Changers for Government Contractors. I'm your host, Michael LeJeune. And if you are not familiar with the podcast, we interview guests twice a month that are experts in the market. They are businesses that are growing. Some of them are clients. They're growing in the market to give you tips, tactics, strategies, that sort of thing. And if you're not familiar with RSM Federal, our focus is helping government contractors achieve their goals in this business. So whether it is through sales, strategy, whatever it may be, we help folks get to that next level in government contracting. And so if you have trouble with that, please reach out to me and someone from my team will circle back with you and we'll give you a free consult to tell you how we can help you get to that next level in government contracting. So today I want to talk about how to build a corporate strategy. And one of the things that I found, and this is true for every type of business that's out there, is most people overthink what it takes to build your corporate strategy. So today I'm going to focus on a handful of questions that you need to be thinking about, especially if you're brand new in this market. So let's say you're brand new and you haven't been in the government contracting world before. Maybe you're a new business owner and you're thinking about, how do I figure out what I need to do in this business? Well, you don't need a 30, 40 page business plan. You need a couple of pages and you need some direction. And it starts with asking these handful of questions. First question you need to ask yourself is, what do I want to sell the government? What do I want to sell? Do I want to sell a product or a service? Do I want to sell a combination of product or service? You need to get very specific on what you want to sell. And if you're a brand new company thinking, well, I could sell one of 20 different things, that's not a bad place to be. In fact, you can sit down and look through their database. You can look through SAM.gov's data bank. You can look through USA Spending, and you can see based on keyword search what the government is buying a lot of. So you can decide that way how to sell. You can also look at what's your passion. Like, what are you really excited about? Now, I don't mean, well, you like Pokemon cards or whatever, so you want to sell, how do I sell that to the government? I mean a passion that is a business line that the government's already buying. Cybersecurity, project management, landscaping, janitorial, office supplies, computers, hardware, software, things that the government's already buying. We can look for those things and determine, out of those, what are you most passionate about? What do you like the most? And then we can start to whittle that down and decide, well, the government buys $60 billion a year worth of this service, but it only buys $3 million worth a year of this product. Well, out of the two, I'm choosing the $60 billion market versus the $3 million market. That's an easy way to determine that. So you need to figure out what you want to sell. Once you figure out what you want to sell, then the next thing is to figure out who buys what you sell. I think one of the easiest things to do is run two reports. One is a report inside of SAM.gov's data bank. I've already mentioned that once, but you definitely want to run a report in there. We call it a who buys what you sell report. I go in there, set up a custom report, and then I search on keyword. That's the reason the method I typically use. Now, the reason I use keyword versus NAICS code, PSC code, all that, is when you get into NAICS and PSC codes, you're going to find a lot of trash in there that you don't want to look at. When you're focused on keyword, the transactions that are going to come up should have those keywords. There should be less trash in it. Now, that doesn't mean some of the other stuff that would have come up in the results weren't valid, but I want to get the smallest data set possible that is the most accurate. And that's where I feel like keyword really does that for you. You can do that in the SAM.gov data bank. You can also do it in USAspending.gov. I would do it in both just to take a look. A lot of times I'll do the USA Spending one first and then go to SAM.gov, but there's no right or wrong. Just depends on how much data you want to see. Once we figure out who buys what we sell, then we can help start to work on the strategy of it. Because if you know that you have a medical background and you see that the CDC buys a lot of what you sell, instantly you can say, okay, I can speak their language. I understand the medical background. It's going to make it easier for me to sell that. Because after you figure out who buys what you sell, you're trying to figure out who you want to sell to. What are my ideal agencies or my top agencies that you want to sell to? Hopefully they have a common background with your experience so that you speak that language. You know a little bit more about how they work, how they operate, and that'll just make you more successful. So who buys what you sell, then targeting out of who buys what you sell, what agencies do you want to focus on, and that will make it much easier for you. Then you drill down another layer and do what we call the how do they buy what you sell report, where you're starting to sift through and determine Are they buying using specific contract vehicles, whether it is GSA, whether it's Oasis, NASA Soup? There's so many different types of things. Are they using simplified acquisition to purchase it? Are they using specific socioeconomic statuses? So is it really going to be important for me to have my SDVOSB, service disabled, veteran owned small business? Is it going to be important for us to be woman owned? Is it important for us to be 8A? Is it important for us to be in a hub zone? As you start to look at how they buy what you sell, those are questions that you will answer. Because let's say you were thinking of, hey, I'm service disabled veteran, and that's going to be really important. So you start pursuing that certification, only to find out it doesn't really matter for the agency you're looking at, because you're focused on the Army, and the Army really focuses on full and open contracts, and they focus on small business contracts, not necessarily a specific set aside. The other one could be 8A. We're like, man, I really need my 8A in order to break in this market, because you heard that at a conference or on a webinar. And you start to run the numbers, and you're like, oh, they buy $60 billion a year in this one category, but only $4 million a year that is 8A, or whatever the number is, right? I'm just making this up. Because I often find that to be the case. And so companies, instead of starting to pursue the market, start focusing on these certifications and things that they believe are important, but it's not backed by data. And so you waste a lot of time and energy when you could be just getting right in the market once you figure out how your target agencies buy what you sell. And the other thing you'll find out is, based on who your top agencies are, how they buy what you sell is likely different at every one of those agencies. So one agency may be really focused on WSB, so woman-owned small business certifications, and another one may be 8A. And if you're selling the VA, they're going to be focused on SDVOSB. And that doesn't mean you sit down and say, well, how do we get our company to get 8A? How do we get our company to be WSB? It may mean that you need teaming partners with those statuses. And so that's why it's important to figure out who's buying what you sell and how they're buying what you sell, so you can look at your strategy and say, well, what do we need? Can we do all of this? Do we need strategic teaming partners? How do we break this down in order to execute it? And it's likely different for every agency that you sell to. Now, the last question that you want to focus on is, how are you going to market your services? Depending on what you sell, you may be looking in DIBS. Depending on what you sell, you may be looking a lot in SAM.gov for opportunities that are coming there. Depending on what you sell, neither of those may be a good option for you. And you may have to identify contracting officers who've bought this sort of product or service in the past, and you may have to go one by one to them. Because let's say that what you sell is often done on a micro purchase. You're not going to see those options on SAM. You're not going to see those solicitations until after it's been awarded. And that does you no good. So you're going to have to reach out to people. You may sell a more complex thing that's in the multi-millions of dollars, and it's always going to be on SAM.gov. Or you may sell a unique solution that you're the only one in the country that has, and they can't even put together an RFP, and you've got to build a case in the market for them to even buy your services. So you've got to figure out, how are you going to market? How are you going to sell your services? How does the market currently buy this today? How are they using the public websites for that? Now, I primarily talk this in the context of the federal government. There's also a SLED market. So you may look at the federal market and say, well, I've done the numbers, and based on who buys what I sell, it's all being bought in the state of New York, and I'm in California, and it needs to be done in person. So the federal market may not be a good fit for me right now. I'm just not big enough. And we can't be doing all the travel. There's no way we can compete on price that way. So we need to focus on the SLED market, the state, local, and education market, based on who buys what you sell. And so once you have this data, you can see how just these couple of things can help you make a lot of corporate strategy decisions. And so again, let's go back to the SLED market. Maybe you can sell in California and some neighboring states. Now that you know that, you can dig deeper into, well, what are the laws? What are the rules? What are the licensings that I need based to operate in these particular states, if that comes into play? And then you can determine, well, if they're close enough, maybe my marketing strategy is driving to these offices, driving to city council meetings where I can meet the city planners and those kind of folks, finding all the city and municipality websites and starting to log into those, create accounts, create profiles, and starting to get searches from them. You can start to figure all this out from that. So again, you can see how very quickly, once you've identified what you want to sell, once you know who buys what you sell, how they buy what you sell, the last thing that you really have to figure out is how you're going to market your services. And you should be able to use all of that data to figure that out. Now, I'm going to give you just a couple of things here in closing that I think are important for regardless of what you sell. Regardless of what you sell, you are likely going to be submitting quotes or proposals in some sort of portal online. That's one method. It means you're going to be searching those things. You're going to be making phone calls to contracting officers, program managers, people who have buying authority, and you're going to be discussing what you sell, giving some sort of capability brief, overview, presentation, hopefully trying to get some direct awards, whether they're micro purchase or simplified acquisition, so that you can then go to the next step. And so that those are phone calls, emails, that sort of thing. And then the third thing is, regardless of what you sell, you likely need some sort of partners that are already in the market, which requires you going back to your reports that you did on who buys what you sell, seeing who's currently selling to them, and identifying strategic players in the market that you can work with. And if you do those three things to help market and sell your services, those three can build a really great business. There's 50 other things you can do. You can get in social media, you can do paid advertising, you can do billboards, you can go to conferences and trade shows, you can do all those things. But if you focus on those three that I just shared with you, that will get you a foothold in the market. It will get you growing, and it'll build a business case for you to spend more energy in this market. So those are a handful of things that I think are really important in building a corporate strategy. Are there more? Sure. Can you complicate it? Sure. There's no need to. Whether you're a brand new business or you've been in this market 50 years and you're trying to reset your corporate strategy, focus on those handful of things. What do you sell? Who buys what you sell? How do they buy what you sell? How are you going to market this? Focus on those things, and that will help you set the mindset for your team and get you focused on the right things for what you do. And if you're struggling with any of that stuff, or you're like, Mike, I've got 50 questions on this, reach out. Somebody on my team will sit down and do a free consult with you and talk you through these pieces and help you decide, do you need our help? Can you do it on our own? Is this market even right for you? Because that's often a question you need to answer as well. Is just because the government buys what I sell doesn't mean the government is a good fit for my business. And you need to eliminate yourself from the market as quickly as possible if it's not a good fit. So if you have questions about this or need anything else from me, please reach out. You can reach out on LinkedIn. You can reach out on email. My email is really easy to find on our website. Just go to rsnfederal.com or federalaccess.com. You'll find us there. And we will see you next episode.